Welcome to video 7 in B05 Introduction to OR, where you're doing demonstration video 7, where we're looking at the conditionals, which are something known as if statements or if-else statements. And in fact, we're looking at blocks of code and how we can use a block of code if an evaluation or a condition at the start of it is true. If that is true, then we'll execute the code. And we can look at this further, where we have the initial example of if statements here. So what you can see is that the general structure is that if the thing in round brackets evaluates as true, we will do these commands. It could be many commands, it could be one command. All the things in the curly brackets here will be executed. If this is false, this will not be executed and nothing will happen. So let's look at the example of this. We have y as the value of 1. We're saying if y is equal to 1, print y, we'll print this is true. And this is printed out. If we change the value of y to 2, and repeat this, we see that nothing is printed. So this is evaluated as false. If we change this again, and let's say we say if y is not equal to 1, so remember the exclamation mark means not, we're now inverting it in effect. So saying if y is any value except 1, print this out. We see that it's printed out. Similarly, if we said y, we're comparing 1 to y, so note that the doubles equal sign equals we're comparing 1 to y. We could put a not outside, so a not like this. If this evaluates as false, so again, this means if y is not equal to 1, print out this is true. And this is true because y is equal to 2. If we try a variation on this, so we could say if y is less than 1, print this is true. Nothing is printed because this is false. If we say if y is greater than or equal to 1, print it out. This holds as being true because y is equal to 2. So now this is true. So those are the main variations. If we change y to be a different value, to be 0, y has changed to be 0 completely. So if we compare y, ask if y is greater than 1, we see nothing is produced. So in the same way, we can also look further at if-else statements as well. If y greater than 1, print, let's use that actually, else print y is below 1. So an else statement gives an alternate command if the initial statement evaluates as false. So now printed y is below 1. If we put a not at the start, this effectively switches them around. So now the first item will be true because y is not greater than or equal to 1 because it's 0 in this case. So this is a way of using if-else statements together, and we could spread them out over several lines. You'll also see the modulus version above. So y is equal to 0. So let's say we say y is equal to 4. If y, so with modulus, it's good to put it in a inside bracket. So we're saying if y mod 2 is equal to 0, print even, else print in round brackets odd. So let's try that. You can see that it's even. If we change y to be 5, then it will say that it's odd. So that's an example of how we can use conditionals to print things out. So there's variations on that you can see there. Another trick for using OR is that we can actually use a if-else structure here. So if you look up the help for if-else, and that's a good idea if you're dealing with more complex functions, or you're getting used to them, but you can see that it says that if-else returns a value with the same shape as test, depending on whether it is true or false. So you got to test a condition here, value if it's yes, and value if it's false. So we could say if-else, and using the exact same expression as above, if y mod 2 equals 0, even, comma, odd. So it prints even if it's true and odd if it's false. So one thing with this, we just have to check our round brackets are matched up and they'll look okay. So that works out, and we see y is 5, so prints that it's odd. If we switch it back to be y is equal to 44, it will now say it's even. And there's further examples above where we can combine them together. So we can say, going back to our if-else statements, if y is even, and another condition here. So we're putting a round bracket at the end just to indicate that we're creating two criteria. If, for example, y divided by 22 is equal to 2, then print it out even and divisible by 22, or print out odd and not divisible. So it says even and divisible by 22 because y is 44. If we change y to being 88, again, that will print out that it's even and divisible. Exactly, equal to 44 because we had that condition there. So that is a value, 88 divided by 22 is 4, so that value is false. So to change that, we could say pipe, use the pipe command to mean or. So if either condition is correct, then it'll evaluate as false. So we can see this then if we apply this to if statements. So we had this before, so let's say we'll simplify it. Y is now 88. So let's say y is greater than 77. So if y is greater than 77, print yes, else print no to keep it simple. I'm going to add a condition here. I'm going to use round brackets just to separate our two criteria so that we can track it more easily. So you see I'm putting in round brackets first, so you can just follow what I'm doing more clearly. So you might have a condition here, y mod 2 is equal to 0. So if it's even, print yes, and also greater than 77. So you see here that's yes because y is 88. And if we change the criteria, say to be 89, this arrives as false. If we change y to be 99, it now becomes true. Oh no, it's not true. And that's because y is odd. So we need to change y to be 100. Now it's true. If we change the criteria and we say y is greater than 99 or even, this is still true. If we change it back to 99, this is still true. If we change y now to be 87, which is odd and below the criteria, we'll see that we get a no as the answer. So in that way, we can combine the ampersand as a Boolean, the pipe as this single horizontal, the vertical line as a Boolean operator as well, meaning R. However, I'd also point out that you can add in as many conditions as you want here, but it's more sensible to layer them up and have multiple if statements. You can have nested if statements if you want as well. So just for illustration, you could have an if statement on inside here. If y mod 3 is equal to 0. So you have to track R. And then more curly brackets inside. Print yes 3. So that doesn't meet that criteria in this case, because we have y is 87 and it's less than 89. But if you change y to be 90, it meets that criteria that is also a factor of 3 as well. So you can apply that as well using the questions here to Davis and so on. And that concludes video 7 to introduce you to ideas in conditional statements in R.